everybody. It is 7:30. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call has been taken by Lori. Thank you, Lori. Item 3 is approval of minutes of the March 8th, 2021 special meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 4, approval of minutes of the March 10th, 2021 regular meeting. Motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second. Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5, approval of fire department bills. Chief Owen.
Good morning, everyone. 2 sets of bills in the packet. One set of bills was reviewed by Commissioner Earl on March 23rd, the other by Commissioner Myers on April 6th. Just 2 things to bring to your attention. On 5H, you will see a payment of $20,000. That is to RI Floor Epoxy. That's the down payment for our floor project, which starts this morning. We're pretty excited to get that going and completed. And the other one is on page 5N/O, and that is to Masimo. And that is for a carbon monoxide pulse oximeter that we purchased for the engine. So in the event they go on a CO call or on a fire scene and someone's not feeling well, they can do a quick check to see if they have CO poisoning. So that was purchased. We're very happy to have that on board right now. It's a good safety tool for the fire crews on scene. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions and ask for your approval of the bills.
Hey, Scott, I just have a question on the floor repair. How does that affect your daily operations? Is it just one stall at a time? Tell me about that.
Basically, what they're doing is they're splitting the station north and south. So the south side of the station is going to be done basically the first week and a half or 2 weeks. We had to displace some of our apparatus. We have our squad and hazmat and an engine over at Street Division, and we have an engine down at wastewater. They're going to start grinding today. And then when they're done grinding, they will put the epoxy down sometime next week, let that dry, and then repeat the same process on the north side of the station. And then we'll be able to pull everything back in. Go ahead, Pete.
I just make a comment that our station looks quite different, obviously, with half of it emptied right now.
Right.
Our crews did a tremendous job getting everything cleaned up. It's amazing how much stuff you do have on the floor once you start picking it up. So I just publicly want to thank them for the work they did. They did a really good job of getting it all cleaned up in time, and it's all ready to go for them this morning. So I just wanted to mention that.
I think we're all excited to see the new floor. Not excited about having to spend the money, but also having it fixed and very functional again. So good. Thank you for that update. But is there any other questions on the bills for Chief Owen? If not, a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mike. Second, thank you. And if we could do a roll call, please, Lori.
Earl?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Gershman?
Yes, thank you. Item 6, approval of police department bills. Pat.
Good morning. In front of you have 2 sets of bills. One was approved by Commissioner Meese on the 24th of March, and one was approved by Commissioner Myers on the 7th of April. The only thing of note is on 6E, you'll see a $4,500 expenditure for, that's actually a yearly service and maintenance fee for our live scan machine, and that's what we use to take all our fingerprints and send that to the state. It was really the only thing that jumped out of significance. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and we'll look for your approval.
Any questions? Otherwise, motions in order.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Roll call, please, Lori.
Earl?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Gershman?
Yes, thank you. Item 7, fire department activities. training reports, correspondence. Chief Owen.
Yeah, so very busy month. Aside from getting the station, de-winterized as much as we could. We had several EMS ride-alongs, several paramedic students from Midstate. Pretty much it seemed almost every day we had them. It's a great opportunity. Several of these ride-alongs or interns are interested in working here. So it gives us a chance to work with them ahead of time and see if they're a fit. And so far, all of them are doing very, very well. On 7A, Deputy Chief Spakos and Fletty participated in WDLB's Insight. I was unable to make it due to a prior commitment, but did a great job just kind of giving a general update of the department. And then on 7C, we had a mandatory hazmat refresher here at the station. It was actually part one of two different hazmat sessions. So a very good review of it's called Hazmat IQ. It's a quick look at what you have and how to deal with it. Excellent training. And then of course, Wood County continued to conduct the vaccine clinics on Wednesdays. That seems to be going well. There'll be no clinic today here in Marshfield. The next 2 weeks are scheduled to be at the fairgrounds because of our floor work, and then they'll be back here and starting up again. So we're very excited to have them here. They really love coming here, and I'm sure once the new floor is done, they'll be even more impressed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, good point.
The monthly statistics are in there. And other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions and ask that you accept and place on file.
Any questions for Chief Owen? We'll go ahead and place that on file. Thank you, Scott. Item 8, discussion approval of agreement between the police and fire departments in advanced physical therapy and sports medicine and health in motion. Scott, did you want to present on this? Yep.
Yeah, so this particular item, and Pat, jump in at any time. We met with Tracy from Advanced Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine. The individual we were working with here, Abigail, left Advanced Physical to pursue a lifelong dream of teaching. We were sorry to see her go. We had a good rapport with her. She worked well, but Tracy came in with a couple of options. They could either try and find another therapist to come to do what we currently have, or we could look to have Ben from Health in Motion right here in town take over the physical therapy part of our contract. Really, there's no financial impact. He's going to take over the physical therapy sessions. We're going to have on-site jet. The benefit to doing it with Ben is he's here in town. If someone is not comfortable seeing him here at the station, they can go to his office, which is in the old Walgreens building. And then for fitness testing, for fit for duty testing, that will remain with Tracy and Advanced Physical. So between those two contracts, again, there's no financial impact. We ask for your approval following any discussion.
Any questions on the contract? If not, I'd like a motion.
Make a motion.
Yeah, motion and a second. Thank you. Lori, if we could do a roll call, please.
Earl,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Gershman,
Yes, thank you. Item 9, discussion approval of agreement between the fire department and the state for the annual hazmat contract. Chief Owen.
Great. I'm beginning to feel like Steve Barg did last night.
Yeah, right.
So the hazmat contract, this is a contract that comes up for renewal every 2 years. As a state type 3 hazmat team, We can be called out by Wisconsin Emergency Management anytime. I can't think of a time that we ever have. But because we are a state team, we do receive funding from the state. And this is a pretty standard contract. There were questions related to workers' compensation, and that has all been resolved between the state and the group. And other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I just ask for your approval so we can send this forward to Finance, Budget, Personnel, and Council.
Any questions for the chief? Otherwise, a motion is in order.
I have a question. This one and the previous one. Obviously, the city signs these contracts, which was made very clear to us previously. I just wonder if there isn't some place that towards the end even that this has been approved by the Police and Fire Commission.
We certainly can put, yeah, I mean, we certainly could put a line in there, either stating this was approved by the PFC on such and such a date, or put a signature block in there as well.
I'm not pushing for the signature. I would just like somewhere in the document that the Police and Fire Commission approved this.
Sure, we certainly can do that.
Maybe above the signature or something.
Sure.
Mike, this is Steve, and I'm supportive of that too. You know, we would never bring anything through the process without your approval, but it's probably a good confirmation.
Yeah. CYA.
I will add it in.
Okay, thank you.
So do we have an amendment to the agreement just stating that it was approved by the Fire and Police Commission on this date? And do we have a motion for approval in a second?
Move. Approve.
Second.
Yep. All right. Any other discussion? If not, Lori, could we do a roll call, please?
Earl,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Hirschman.
Yes. Item 10, mass discussion. Me and Chief Owen had just a little bit of a conversation over the last week or two, and I'm glad Steve Berg is joining this. From what I understand is the city went ahead and kept the mask mandate. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, what they actually did is they kind of put it off for the time being, and they want me to come back to them in 2 weeks and talk about it a little bit more. I think conceptually, they maybe have bought in, at least a number of them, to the idea that there's a date that we could set out there when, once everyone's had a chance to get the vaccine, it's probably appropriate to pull back on the expectation that people have masks on in our buildings, whether it be employees or visitors. But they didn't actually commit to anything last night. They want to see some more information from me before they go into those waters. That's where I'm going to head, though. I'm going to head toward trying to get a date, you know, in late spring or early summer, when you can say, look, anybody who wanted to get the vaccine has more than had the opportunity.
Okay. Chief Owen, can I get your thoughts on that as well as Zeps, please?
Yeah, so for us, you know, we've had over 60% of the department get it. They've all had the opportunity, they have the opportunity every week to get it. And one of the things that we would like to do is relax our mask requirements for specific things. So for example, if the crews are out checking the apparatus in the morning, they're usually out there by themselves around their rig. Any outside training would be another one. And then cleaning and fitness, we would ask for those. Anytime that we would be doing large group gatherings, such as meetings, training inside, shift change, they would still be required to wear their masks. Even upstairs in the day room, if they are watching TV, they're already spaced the recliners out enough so they have adequate spacing between them. We would like to relax that requirement. Obviously, if there's a spike in the cases again, we would go back to our current activities. There are 5 departments listed on there about what they're doing, our 5 local departments. Ours would be similar to kind of a combination of them. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Chief Zeps.
Yeah, the only thing I could really say on that is I agree with a lot of what Scott's saying. I think it's a little problematic if we stray from the city. I think it just kind of paints it in more of a confusing light across the departments. The other thing is with the way our department's laid out, I think, I agree if we're in the squad room, maybe you could relax that. And I know this isn't probably the most popular thing to say, but with our workspaces, I don't really see a lot of reason to relax it right now. I would be more inclined to wait and just be in line with what the city's doing. But certainly respect both sides of the argument. I just think it's a little more problematic for the size of our department, the way that we're laid out for people to relax the mask mandate just because we're in such close proximity with them. But like I said, I'll respect the decision of the PFC on this one.
So really the question becomes is, do we allow some discretion at the fire department in terms of what the city policy is? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think Pat made a good point that, in line with what the rest of the city's doing, I think it's, at least for now, to just follow the leader. And when the city relaxes theirs, and I think, overall we can do likewise.
I personally am picturing around June 1st. I mean, that would be roughly 60 days since the April 5th day when we were told that anyone 16 and over, regardless of health concerns, could get the vaccine. That's almost 2 months. And again, I'm like what you've already heard from, I think, Pat and Scott. We certainly monitor the new cases. They could spike again, but I think that would be a reasonable place to land, and maybe be good if we all kind of were in sync. I know the library is having the same conversation, and they're kind of looking at us as well. So we'll see where we go here.
And at the time that we do make it, if we happen to go a little bit lax on it, make it voluntarily. I mean, if somebody still wants to wear their mask, certainly they're welcome to do so. I mean, let's do it in public anyhow, and it's just getting to be a habit now. So if they want to continue that, they're more than welcome.
Yeah, we would definitely encourage that. And, still, depending on situation, may end up riding to responses with their masks on yet. But yeah, we definitely would still encourage them to wear their mask anytime.
So what I'm hearing is we'll stay consistent with the city policy, and that'll become a little bit clearer at some point. Steve mentioned the June one. Does that make sense, Gordy? Are you
Yes,
okay with that?
I agree.
All right. So I don't think we need any action on this. It was just a discussion item.
Like I noted in the minutes, though, please.
Yeah. So let's just note that we're going to stay with the city policy, and then I'm sure we'll review it fairly soon.
And I'll stay in touch with Pat and Scott and others as we go down this road so that we have the chance to be as in sync as possible.
Very good. Thank you. Item 11, discussion approval of the process of fire department and police department invoices. Had a brief conversation with Scott about this. Scott, you go ahead and lead that off for us, please.
Okay, so currently, the city, or I shouldn't say currently, the city switched to a new financial software, Munis, and periodically we go in and approve the bills that Lori has coded into the system or finance has coded into the system. We actually had a call last week from finance to go in and approve these. But what we were not aware of was as soon as we click approve, they're sent for payment. So that kind of goes against the statute where PFC approves all bills. So to make it easier, so we don't have late fees, we don't have disgruntled vendors, what I'm proposing is when a commissioner comes in to sign the bills, that we can go ahead, go into Munis, approve them, and essentially the commission has approved them at that time, and then they can be sent out for processing. Otherwise, we're going to be behind the 8 ball when it comes to approving these because we only meet once a month. So I don't know, Pat, if you have anything to add into that. We just want to make sure that We are following statute and the commission is approving bills, and by having a commissioner come in and sign them, I interpret it as, that's approval then.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me too. And I wasn't even familiar with the statute. So thanks, Scott, for finding that. I've also got Cindy on the call too. I don't know if she's got anything to add on this, but the only question I would have is it would seem that the bills may sit there for just a bit longer, and if finance would be okay with that until a commissioner came in and we then did the approval. So that would really be the only change that I would see as far as like my end.
So can I ask one question? Should we be changing this to bi-monthly every 2 weeks? Rather than, because I don't want late fees. I don't want you to be late. I don't have to worry about paying vendors on time. I mean, Scott, do you have an impression on that? Do we need to go twice a month?
I think, it's probably not a bad thing. That way we can get them out in a timely manner, even if it's through, email approval.
Right.
That's fine, just so we can get these out, and finance had indicated that they can get monthly reports, but there's certain things that don't get entered into Munis. So Lori actually has to do double entry, and Cindy does too, which is not ideal, and we continue to work with that. But if we can get this portion of it fixed, 2 times a month would be great. Then we can get these payments out and keep the vendors happy.
Yeah, especially when we can do email approval by each commissioner or, who's ever on for the month. So that would be great. Well, keep us updated on how that's going. I know it's a change and probably a little bit of frustration, just worried about getting the bills out, but keep
So
us
is it
updated.
okay to ask for approval to start this?
Yeah, but can I entertain a motion to go ahead and start the new process?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Let's do a roll call on this if we could, Lori.
Earl,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Hirschman,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 12, replacement of firefighter in a pre-planned retirement in May. Chief Owen.
Whew, my last one. So the purpose of this memo is to request permission to begin the process of refilling an anticipated retirement in May. As you are aware, we have to obtain permission from PFC, and then it has to go to finance, budget, personnel, and council for approval to refill that vacancy. But this will help expedite the process. And in the event this person does not retire, we have the process in place for the next one that does, I guess. But I ask for your approval on this so that we can start that process.
All right, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Any other discussion? Otherwise, roll call. Lori, please.
Earl,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Hirschman.
Yes. Item 13, Police Department activities, training reports, and correspondence packet. Pat.
All right, another usual gamut of online trainings and meetings, although I think I noted this last time, we are starting to move to some in-person trainings. We haven't had any issues with that whatsoever. So that's a good thing, because some of the trainings you can't substitute being there for online. One thing I will note is on March 8th, we had our new police record specialist, Alexis Schultz, start. That's Cindy Getz's replacement, and she comes to us from Clark County Sheriff's Department, where she did a very similar job. I think she was around 2 years there, so her learning curve has been amazingly quick, and she's done an amazing job. And just next time you stop in, you'll see her up where Cindy used to sit. So just want to welcome her aboard and let everybody know she's doing a fantastic job so far. Other than that, I don't really have much to report as far as activities.
Any questions on the activities of the police department?
If I could just give an update, and this wasn't something that Pat was required to report on, but I had mentioned to the commission that I was going to be meeting with different shifts. I've got 4 groups that I've met with already, and I got 1 more group next week that I'm going to meet with. It's been very well received. They've been open about discussions about the relationship with the commission and in the police department and things in general. I got some good ideas about out of it, and I'm going to summarize that for everybody. So bring you all up to speed on what we've come up with. Once I get this group done, I've already worked with Scott about meeting with his 3 shifts, and I did this about 2-3 years ago, and I think it was well received then, and I'm looking forward to doing it again with the fire department as well. So they've got concerns, they've got issues, and I was glad to put a few things to rest, right from the horse's mouth, so to speak, and so it's been productive, and I enjoy doing it. And I think the feedback I've been getting, at least from the majority of everybody, is that it's a good thing to do. And we probably should have considered something like that along the way, because I met a guy last night. In fact, he says he's been in the department for 15 years and he's never met me as a commissioner. And I feel bad about that, because I do like to know everybody that works in the departments. I know it's almost impossible to do but I felt bad about that. So now we met. So, and he was, they've all been very productive discussions that we've had. So
That's excellent, Mike. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the police department activities report? Otherwise, we will place that on file. Item 14, a request to appoint Assistant Police Chief Pat Zepps as acting police chief, effective immediately. We're finally getting around to this. If I could have a motion to approve that.
Motion.
second, and I got a comment.
Yep.
Pat's been doing an excellent job, and I would like to say that. I tell him that often, and I'd like to say that publicly. I don't hesitate to officially make this week. I don't think any of us expected all this stuff to take as long as it did. If he is in the acting position, then I think along with it would be an adjustment in compensation. It's been 8 months now, and he's been doing his own work plus everything there is to know about being a police chief, and this ought to ought to be compensated for his efforts as well. So,
Steve, could you comment on that? I know we had some discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, I can, and probably Jen would have if I hadn't. We did bring this through to the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee, and it actually got approved by the council last night through consent to provide that additional compensation for Pat going back to August when he assumed the duties of Chief Gramza. And we did the same thing for Pete Fletty, who'd assumed the duties for, I think, 3 months in Scott's absence. So, those are long overdue. I think you all understand why we didn't jump sooner with respect to the compensation for Pat. And then I had talked to Pat about this because there were a lot of people in the community, at least some people in the community, not real happy that we were still paying Chief Gramza his full salary. The idea of coming forth on an agenda to give more compensation for someone doing his job probably wouldn't have played very well. But we're very glad to have this done. I hadn't realized that we hadn't gotten to it, but now we can move forward and thank both gentlemen for everything they've done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I certainly concur with that. So we have a motion and a second. Could we do a roll call, Lori, please?
Earl,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Gershman.
Yes, thank you. Item 15, discussion outline a process of search for new police chief, human resources director, Ray Koo. I had a brief conversation with Jen and shared an email about the process and options available to the commission. And Jen, if you could just kind of outline some of the things that we talked about to the commission as far as the process.
Sure. And I've if you're okay with that, I'd also like to expand kind of what we would do in one of each scenario. So really you have two options. The discretion in terms of how you want to fill this position is really up to the Police and Fire Commission. You're not restricted by city policy. However, I do have details in regard to how each of those processes would work or how I'd recommend they work, depending on whether or not you want to recruit internally and fill the position through the HR department, or if you'd like to engage an external consultant for it. So option one, if you were going to conduct this search internally, the first thing in regard to posting the position, what we would do is a multi-state search approach, kind of broaden it as wide as we can, likely Midwest, but we could go further if needed. We would post on such sites as WileyNet, the IACP, the League, Indeed, government sites, the city site, and then any other sites that might be recommended by the PFC or Pat or Scott for that matter. In looking at that, we would determine a screening committee. My recommendation would be that HR and the PFC, either designated members or the full group, would review candidates. Once we've determined who our top candidates are, I would do pre-screening with the candidates via Zoom. And then we'd look to bring in the top 3 to 5 candidates into a full day interview process. And what we found for other department or division heads that has worked pretty well has really been to break it up into multiple panel interviews. I would recommend, if we were to do that, we would have PFC members, the city administrator, our finance director, the fire chief, probably the chair of the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee, and the chair of the Board of Public Works Committee to ensure that we had some council representation in it, and then anyone else recommended by the committee. One thing you might want to consider is whether or not you wanted some community members involved, or potentially a chief from a neighboring community, just so that you get a full scope group for the analysis. I'd also recommend that we do 2 presentations if we were to do it internally. One would be a pre-planned presentation so that you can understand their preparation and their planning skills. And the second one would be an impromptu presentation so you can evaluate how they would be able to respond on the fly to an emergency situation. With all positions, we would do a background check. That would be the full PD background check, a credit check, a job function test, and then of course a drug screen, physical, and the psych eval that is part of this process. So internally, that's what the process would look like. If you would choose to use an external consultant for this search, we would need approval from the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee and Common Council, as well as from this body. We would create an RFP for the consultant. You would want to create a committee to review the RFPs and the proposals that come in. Costs, from what I can find online, are typically 25 to probably 40,000. They could go higher, but I think the higher costs are maybe more metropolitan areas. We do have a number of known consultants that we could send this to, and then we would also post it for other organizations to respond to the RFP. Really, the change in the process would be the pre-screening would be done by the consultants, but then the on-site piece would likely remain the same if that is something that you're interested in terms of having those panel interviews going forward, as well as the presentations. I'm certainly happy to take any questions that you might have.
Jen, I just have a couple questions in terms of assessing each of the candidates. What advantage does an outside party have for us in terms of being able to determine a candidate's skills, assessing their qualifications?
I think from assessing the qualifications, the difference would be is we'd be looking at a specific PD and or fire consultant for something like this. So really their entire gamut of work is based on the skill sets that these positions would hold. The other benefit that you would have with them is they've probably got a established contact list of individuals who might be looking to advance into a position such as ours.
And what did we do with the last hire when we hired the past chief? Did we bring in a consultant or did we go with your other plan?
From what I can tell, it was done internally.
Yeah, that's correct. It was. It was. Yeah, it was done internally, but it was the assessment center, everything that we did was very, very, very thorough. I'm a little bit concerned because, Andy's not here today. I almost think we should probably have a special meeting to talk about this in more detail with Jen, but I thought it was good to have an overview because really we need to make two decisions, whether we do it internally or do we have Jen Reku develop a proposal for an RFP, and then we go outside and look for to be able to hire to bring in additional candidates or help us assess. Anybody got a feeling one way or the other right now?
Well, I think the feeling in the community is if we put this to them, they certainly wouldn't want to spend any more money because that's been one of the gripes all along of all the money that we're spending for experts to come in and do the things that needed to be done. So when Jen said 25 to 40,000, I can well imagine what that's going to look like in the paper and on the street. So I don't care to go that route. I would prefer to have her do this based on what she said.
Mike, your thought?
Well, I have some of the same concerns, but like you mentioned, I feel more comfortable if we had a full commission to if I make the final decision on what direction we're going to go. But if Jen, I don't want to put you through any more than you have to, but if you could, if you haven't already, maybe summarize what you just presented to us, and share that with us. I was taking notes and everything, but I don't want to miss anything. It's an important decision I think we have to make, and more important, do we go outside or do we advertise within? There are some advantages to just staying within the department. We invest a lot of money in part of their contracts. We offer a lot of money to our personnel to go to school to get a master's, and that'd be money well spent if it resulted in somebody moving ahead to the chief's position. And there are people in the department, whether they want to admit it or not, in any department, someday the people want to be a chief, and I'd hate to stifle that by looking outside. There's advantages of looking outside as well. You get new ideas, you get a clean look, fresh look. Whether you're comfortable with what we have or you want to do bigger and better things. I've been part of a couple different commissions where we did hire outside. There were some new ideas, but eventually the freshness wears off and they become a regular employee. But I'd feel comfortable if we could all take part in a discussion like this and come to some conclusion. There's advantages both ways, and I'm not in any hurry to hire anybody brand new right now, or anybody at this time. We've got a very capable person in the control of the department now, and I don't think we're under the gun to make a decision on it anyhow yet.
I'm just going to chime in just a little bit. I absolutely agree. I think, Pat, as an interim chief, as our chief now, we can take our time with this process. And I've had this conversation with Pat in the past about, just the ability that we have to have people compete against each other for the position. I think that's important too. I think what we'll do is no action. And then at some point in the future, we'll have a special meeting for it. Steve, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm sorry to jump in, but I may or may not be on the next call when you have this discussion. So I kind of want to weigh in on Mike's comments. I appreciate what you're saying, Mike. I think one of the things that fire and police departments do historically well that other city departments don't, and that's build future leaders in terms of training and all the things to get them ready for the next step. Having said that, with what you've been through the last 6 to 8 months, I really think that you would be doing internal candidates a disservice to not have a pretty significant external search as part of it. Whether Jen is at the heart of it or whether an outside firm is, that's another topic. But I really think that you would probably not do well to not go through that, even by the person you select if it turns out to be an internal candidate. I think you want the public, the council, everybody to know that at this point in time, with what's transpired lately, that you looked at every place you could to see if there was a good candidate to lead this department. Having said that, I want to commend Pat, right now too, and I think I've done it before. I hope I have. He's done just an outstanding job of leading things for the past 8 months in very, very difficult circumstances. So I want to thank him for everything he's done.
So I think what we'll do in terms of process, we will have probably a special meeting in the future at some point to work on this. And, I think time is an advantage for us right now. Pat can run the department in the interim. We've all been through the lot, police department especially. So maybe we can give a sense of have a little time to go through this process. So any other discussion at all?
On this, I want to thank Steve and Jennifer for their input, because it's probably one of the most important decisions we make in either department to hire the chief, and I look forward to working with you in this process.
Same here.
As well, it'll be good. So, all right, there's no further.
I've got one thing, please.
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry. We had a resignation letter this week from Dr. Meese, and I'd just like to recognize her for serving on the commission as she did. In fact, I was sorry to see the letter, but understand that she is very busy up at the research center running the COVID. It's a day and night kind of job for her, and plus she's raising 2 fine young people, her kids, and it's got to be a handful for her. So I can understand her wanting to, and those are the reasons she gave in her resignation letter. So she's been very good to work with. I've always looked forward to her insight on issues. She's one to listen and then speak, which I wish I could get to do that someday, but she's well thought out when she gives her comments and answers, and it's been a sincere pleasure working with her on the commission, and she's going to be sorely missed in my mind. So best of luck to Jen.
Yeah, I'm sure all of us agree. We were so lucky to have her level of expertise and thought process during the whole COVID thing. She continued to add a lot of information that maybe we weren't aware of. And yeah, she's just an exceptional person. She's going to be missed from this commission. I agree with you, Mike.
I second that.
Okay, thanks. The one other thing is these reports that we get from Steve Bakos on the EMS services. I mention it every time I get one from him, but I'm sure the rest of the commission shares the same feeling that his updates are very informative, and I appreciate what he does in that field, his endeavor. So
I agree. I don't always second or I don't always respond to his comments, but they're always well written and very informative. And I think it's important that we continue to read them and perhaps even respond with a simple thank you to him.
Very, very detailed. That last memo, Steve, that you pushed out was very, very detailed in terms of what was going on with EMS. So we appreciate that.
Pete, we don't want to forget you either. Pete, thank you for all you do.
Yes, second.
Yep, for sure. All right. I think there's no further business. We'll go ahead and adjourn. Everybody have a great week. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.